Good morning. We're working on our final episode in this experiment I'm doing with Jonathan Green solar green grass seed. It's been almost a full year. Today is the third week in August, and I'm just making clips that will take me up till probably September 15th. That's when I seeded this yard for the first time. So this series will cover an entire year. I've made arrangements to have this yard aerated in the next few days, and I want to do two things. Number one, I want to get all these leaves up, and number two, I want to put down some more grub control. I put a little bit on in my last video, but today I want to talk about Ike's grub control. This particular product is a systemic insecticide. The active ingredient is Imidacloprid. That means that when you spray this on your yard or your shrubs or whatever, it's actually going to be absorbed by the plant. And that way, if any grubs are in the ground, adult grubs, they will chew on the roots of your grass seed and they will get a dose of this. It's a neurological toxin. It doesn't take much. A half ounce will cover 1,000 square feet, and that's good for about 3 months. I always insist that you read the label. It's attached to the back of this particular bottle, and it's pretty involved. Just dig through there till you see how to apply stuff to a yard. And just to give you a few takeaways, it says to use between 0.4 and 0.6 ounces per 1,000 square feet. I'm just going to call that a half ounce per 1,000. And it also recommends that you use a low pressure applicator. So what you're looking for is not a misty type application. You're looking for pretty large droplets. And to achieve that, today I'll be using my Ortho hose end sprayer. Overall, I really like this device. The only thing I don't like about it is that it's really difficult to screw the container onto the sprayer itself. I don't know what makes it difficult, but if you're new to the Ortho dial and spray hose end sprayer, the first few times you use it, make sure you hang on to that cup when you're screwing it on, because you might think you've got it threaded. You let go of it, it's liable to fall right down to the ground. So anyhow, what I like about this is that it's pretty idiot proof. You can put a half ounce of grub control in here and then fill this container up with water. Turn on the water by pressing the trigger and spray until this container is empty. And put that on 1,000 square feet of lawn, and you would have put a half ounce of chemical down on that 1,000 square feet. Now what I'm going to do is put a full ounce in there, and instead of 1,000 square feet, I'm going to do 2,000 square feet. That would be an area, say 40 feet by 50 foot. That would be the dimensions of a yard. 40 by 50, that gives you 2,000 square feet. And since it says that it prefers, large globules as opposed to a fine mist, this is the perfect device for applying this product. I would not recommend putting more than an ounce at a time into this dial-in spray because they want you to mix it with enough water to where it can sort of get down towards the roots of the grass. And so if you fill this thing up with liquid and then spray it till it's completely empty, you would have sprayed out 2 gallons. You got what I'm saying? Doesn't matter how much chemical you put in there, it's going to spray out 2 gallons. So by putting a full ounce in there, 2 gallons comes out. That means that our dilution rate was a 1/2 ounce per gallon per 1,000 square feet. I hope that makes some sense. If not, just take my word for it. Put an ounce of this in here, fill this up with water, and spray over a 2,000 square foot area, and you have pretty much done everything right. We've had a lot of rain recently, but it's been a few days since we had any, so I'm praying that my yard is not saturated. You do not want to apply this Ike's lawn grub control to a saturated yard. You want the chemical to be able to go down to the roots. We are expecting some rain tomorrow. Not much, between 1/4 and 1/2 inch of rain. So this ought to work out perfect for me. I'll put this on today. You know, using the application rate I told you about, it's basically going to be 1 ounce per 2 gallons, or a 1/2 ounce per gallon per 1,000 square feet. And that should be enough liquid to get it set. And then if we get a little bit of rain, that will help work it into the soil towards the roots a little better. And just like I don't want to aerate over all these leaves, I do not want to do my grub control on top of all these leaves. So I'm going to be getting them up with a homemade leaf gatherer, and I'll go over and show you how I made mine. I just can't afford to buy one of those commercial things to fit on my lawnmower. It probably would cost me more than my lawnmower is worth right now. My homemade lawn bagger consists of 3 or 4 basic items. First of all is the bag. This is a tarp, a heavy-duty tarp. You can get this at Harbor Freight, just about anywhere. They're pretty cheap at Harbor Freight. What I did was I bought me a grommet kit from Harbor Freight, and I added grommets all along the seam, I guess about every 6 to 8 inches. I went all the way down this seam and all the way down the bottom seam, and I closed it up with zip ties, just small zip ties. And it doesn't have to be airtight. You do not want it airtight. You want some air to flow through there so that the leaves, you know, can move. If this thing was sealed tight, the leaves would not go into the bag. So I've used zip ties to close the bag at the bottom and along the side. Now along the top of the bag, you know, this is the area where I want the leaves to go into. I don't have that sealed. I'm going to put that across my manifold, and I've just got a piece of paracord woven through there so that once I get it around my manifold, I can just pull that tight, and then maybe put a bungee cord or something around it just for extra securement. Another item that you'll need if you want to build one like I did is some sort of manifold, or whatever you call this thing, that would attach to the deck of your mower, so that when you're actually cutting grass or cutting leaves, the blades, the force of the blades will push the leaves out, go through this manifold, and your bag would be attached to the manifold. Now, I bought this years ago. I don't remember where I got it, but all I know was that when I was searching for something like this, I could not find one made for a Troy-built pony. But I went ahead and ordered something that looked like it might fit on my deck. You know, just raise up your deflector and look at your deck, and then go look for these things online and find something that either says, hey, it fits your particular mower, or it just looks like you could make it fit. When I bought this manifold, it came with several holes pre-drilled in it. There's one, and there's another. And it had a couple other holes. I don't know what they're for. Probably some more other than mine. But anyhow, I looked at these two holes. I just went in here and drilled a 1/4 inch hole there and a 1/4 inch hole there to match up with these two holes. Just ignore this bungee cord I have here. That just keeps my deck from pushing back against my tire. I've lost something on my deck, some sort of brace, so that thing swings back and forth. I'm going to hook this up in a minute so you'll see exactly how I have it attached. The last thing you're going to need is some sort of brace to hold your bag up. You can't just drag it along behind the mower. It'll get in your wheel and it'll put so much pressure on the manifold you might tear it loose. It's just got a little 1/4 inch bolt holding it on. So what I did was I drilled a hole behind the seat of my mower and installed one of these little wing nut type deals. I'll show you this thing. It's just a 1/4 inch diameter machine screw, machine bolt, and a plastic or a fiberglass wing nut on the top. You wouldn't even have to use these wing nuts, but they just make it easy to take the support bar on and off, because I only use my bag on this mower just a few times a year. The rest of the time I will be probably just mulching up my leaves and leaving them in place. But this time of year, when I'm going to do some grub control and overseed my yard, I'm not going to be dragging that bag across it. So for the next month or so, I'll be using the bag. But anyhow, I'll go ahead and put these braces on and show you how easy this is. This is the main brace. It's going to go across the back of your mower. And mine looked a little weird because when I first made mine, I didn't buy a piece of flat iron long enough. I had it in mind that I was going to just like drill a hole here and one back here, but turned out that didn't seem to work too well. I wanted it to go all the way across the back of my mower for stability. Anyhow, you can buy a piece of flat iron. This is not even a 1/4 inch, but it seems to do okay. I bent it. I don't have a vise, but I bent it just by sticking the flat bar in a crack on my deck and then just pushing it till I got, I guess maybe a 45-degree bend coming off the main brace there. I'll go ahead and hook that up now and show you what it looks like attached. It's not absolutely necessary, but it's much better if after you drill these holes and you install your 1/4 inch wide bolt through there, come in from the bottom, go ahead and use a fender washer and go ahead and put a nut on there. That nut is not absolutely necessary, but if you don't use that, then every time you take your brace off, you're going to have to remove these little posts. And if they're not on there tight, something could jiggle loose and you lose it. But anyhow, installing the brace is just a simple matter of lining up the holes and then putting the wing nut on top of that. Well, I've set the brace over the studs, and then we just put the wing nut on there. Whoops. And tighten them down, pretty good. You don't have to use a tool to tighten them, but if they're not snugged up pretty good, just the vibration of the mower will make these things fall off. And by having that nut underneath there, it holds the bolt in place where I don't have to, every time I put the brace back on, I don't have to go under there with some sort of tool to hold the bolt steady. And then the same thing on this other side. I did not attach this tire guard with wing nuts. That's because normally I would never take this loose. I just had it in 2 parts so that you could get a better idea of how I constructed this bracket. So usually I'll just, if I'm going to remove it, I'll take these 2 wing nuts off and take the whole bracket off as one piece. It looks like it's really stuck out at a big angle, but once you get some leaves in there, it's going to have some weight on it. That thing will be coming down. I suppose if I was rich, I could have bought thicker flat bar. I don't really know what that is. It looks like it's less than a 1/4 inch. It's pretty springy, but it's good enough for me. And if I need, you know, like if I'm doing more than sucking up leaves, you know, like if my grass is real tall, grass is heavy, if this thing starts being a problem, I'll just take a string and wrap it around this bracket and take it over to the wing nut, you know, a string or a piece of wire just to give it more support. All right, let me go ahead and get this manifold installed on here with just 2 wing nuts and let you see how this thing looks. That was simple enough. Now, I did not remove my deflector, but if you have a mower that's got you know, a mulching door on it, you're going to have to make some modification. You can't blow leaves. You know, you can't suck leaves out of this thing if the deck door is shut. I mean, that sounds like Mr. Obvious, but I figure I better say something about it. Okay, just 2 wing nuts holding it on, one here and one there. And I drilled both these holes to match the holes that came with the manifold. I wish I knew what you call this thing. It would make it easier for you to search it. Maybe you could just look up lawn tractor baggers, and then when you see a parts list, you'll get the nomenclature on what this thing is called. All right, let's put the bag on. Then we'll be ready to roll. This is it. Got a bag. I got it tied on with this piece of paracord. It's probably hard to see, but there's like a little cinch on there that I use to just roll it down to hold it tight. And then I took the loose end of the paracord after I got this tight around my deal and just threw it over this support bracket so it doesn't just dangle around and get tangled up in something. And I've got my bag hooked up here with an old carabiner that was broken, but like I said, you could use an S-hook or something a little more substantial if you wanted to, but I'd have to drill a bigger hole, and this works fine. So I think we're pretty much ready to go. I may try and I can't find my bungee cord from last year. I got a short one here. I'll see if this fits around the bag just for extra to keep it from sliding off. Yeah, that little blue bungee cord did fine. I think last year I had a yellow one. I don't know if they're color coded according to size or not, but I had a yellow one that I could go around twice, and then when I took my bag off, I could use that bungee cord to hold my bag up and keep it secure. I went ahead and put a piece of rope on this bracket. I don't think I need it today. I'm just picking up leaves, but just to show you what I was talking about, that you could, you know, add a little more support to this bracket if you went cheap like I did and got thin flat bar. All right, let me get the limbs picked up out of my yard and we'll be ready to suck up some leaves. That's what it looks like with the bag inflated. Don't worry about these holes. It'll still keep leaves in there. You want some airflow. Otherwise, it's like using a fishing net that's not made out of mesh. You know, if you had a sheet as a fishing net, it's going to be hard to net fish. You need to have some kind of flow to it. I'd say it does pretty good. What do you think? For a homemade bag, it does a great job. As you can see, when I turn right, the bag sticks out, no problem. But if I was turning a sharp left, you would need that bracket to keep the bag off the tire. Okay, I'm gonna finish this project, and I'll come back and might even show you how I'm putting that grub control down today. This shouldn't take me but about 10 minutes to do this front yard. I think that did a pretty good job for just a few minutes, maybe 5-6 minutes. I could have got more leaves up if I lowered my deck. I had it at 5 inches because it's still technically summertime and I don't like to cut my grass too low in the summer. So at 5 inches I was able to get up most of those leaves, at least good enough so that when I put my grub control out, I know it's getting down below the leaf cover. 90% of the time when I cut my grass, I do not bag my leaves. I just mulch them up, leave them in the yard. But on these few occasions, at 10% of the time I got the mower going, I need to do something with my leaves. This is the old frame from a swimming pool that just developed too many leaks. So I've got the liner up there next to the shed that I'll use to patch other things and other projects. I put some chicken wire around it, and it really does a good job of mulching up these leaves. I just leave it in here, and this has been in here for about a year. I started last September, and I'll get some of these fresh leaves off of here and dig down there and look at how rich this compost is. This thing's full of fish and worms and everything else. So this would be something you could use on your flower beds and stuff like that. Just an idea. Alright, let me get this bag off here. Removing the leaf bag is pretty simple. Just take the bungee cord off. Like I said, that bungee cord is not 100% necessary. And then I can unhook it right here. I don't know if I can do it with one hand. I can't. Hold on. Let me put this camera down for a minute. Yeah, that carabiner I was using, it was a damaged one that I took off my shed door. But I had trouble getting it out because it had got twisted up when I used it today. I'll probably just put a stainless steel S-hook in there to attach to one of the grommet eyes on my bag. Then unlacing the mouth of it, it's a simple matter of taking your paracord off to the brace over there and then just pulling that little keeper. See that little thing there? And then I can open up the mouth of the bag and dump it into my compost pile. That easy. If you make it one of these things, after you've used it a couple of times, you'll get to know it pretty well. if you overfill the bag to where no more leaves can go into it, they could get packed into this deal here, the unknown item. And you'll just have to take a stick or something, or reach in there with your hand and clear the jam out. And then it'll start working again properly. I'm just going to leave the bracket and this deal on here, even though it's simple, you know, it's just 2 wing nuts. I'm just going to leave it on there because I'll probably have to suck up some leaves before I overseed in the next week. I'll just take my tarp and bungee cord and throw it up underneath the shelter. If you've never used one of these ortho dial and spray deals, I'd say practice with it with nothing but water in the thing. This dial on the side is not going to change the fact that only 2 gallons is going to come out of that tank. It's just that the lower the setting, the longer it's going to take to do that. So right now I've got mine set on 3, and that's about the pace I'll walk. I can do 2,000 square feet if I put that on 3 if I walk briskly. So if you're a slow walker, you might want to turn it down lower. If you're a speedball, turn it up higher, whatever's comfortable for you. Now when you go to put your chemical in, I recommend putting a little bit of, maybe a half of a tank of water in there, half to 2/3. You don't want to put chemical into a bare tank. It may stick to the side and not mix properly. Alright, that looks good. Now we'll put the chemical in. We're going to put 1 ounce in this tank and do 2,000 square feet. Alright, we've got our grub control product in the tank. We'll go ahead and fill it back the rest of the way. Go slow because it'll produce a lot of bubbles in there. And this is the hard part, getting this darn thing screwed in. Hang on to that tank. Eventually, you'll feel it tighten up a little bit. Give her a good shake. You want to agitate this thing. And now we're ready to go. Now, step off your yard. You know, you want to find a factor that makes 2,000 square feet. That could be 40 by 50 or 30 by 70. That's close enough to 2,000 square feet. So, get a teenager to help you if you don't know how to do square footage. So, let's get going. See, these are pretty big droplets coming out of this hose end sprayer. It's not necessary to get every square millimeter because it's going to spread out when it gets wet, and it's going to be absorbed by the plant life. This is not a fast killer. It could take more than 24 hours, 24, 36 hours for this product to actually kill a grub. That's after he consumes it or comes in contact with it. So it's not like that Bayer Advanced 24-hour grub kill. I love that stuff, but I usually wait till September, early October to put that down, when the grubs are big and fat, just before they hibernate. I can throw that stuff out and the next day come out and count my grubs that I killed the night before. Okay, I've done about 1,000 square feet and I'm about halfway done with this tank. That means I'm doing it right. I'm not going to bore you by watching me put out the other 1,000, but I'll continue to do that all through my yard.